What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Bobby J on 30A. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, as always, Bobby Johnson. Bobby Johnson.
How are you, Chris?
I'm good, man. That's like one name.
Welcome to Bobby J on 30A. Welcome to Florida.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, man. How's your weather? How is your weather, by the way?
Spokane is right next to Idaho. So in the summertime, we get great summers, 80s pretty much most of the time. Lots of sunshine. Beautiful. So beautiful. So
well, do you remember when I used to be able to sit outside?
Yeah. Too hot now?
Oh, gosh. It's probably 90, humidity pushing 100% or maybe 95. Wow. Yeah, it's brutal out there.
Do you guys have restaurants and houses with misters down there that kind of like spray the mist?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing.
That's so cool. I love those things.
Like that. They'll really drop temperatures 10 degrees, really, So, yeah, a lot of restaurants will do that.
Yeah. My first experience of that was in Austin, Texas, where they had some mysterious restaurant.
I've never been to Austin. I've heard wonderful things about it, though.
It is a cool town for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about no, the word no. I'm excited for this because I'm still on this path.
I like it. I think it's a topic that's funny, Chris. I love to talk about things that I struggle with, Mm-hmm. I think it helps kind of come to the surface. And these videos and these vlogs and I guess they're called vlogs, and they're good things for me to go back to and remind myself. Like I tell my kids sometimes, the words I speak are places I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
not necessarily where I'm at all the time, but they're a place I'm trying to get to. But this topic of no being a complete sentence kind of came to mind today when I was thinking about us today, and how critical and how important it is to remember that we can say no to things. And I think in business, for whatever reason, because I always tell people I have post-traumatic stress disorder from the collapse of real estate years ago. Right? So what would that be? That'd be called post-traumatic. Would it be crash disorder? What should call it?
Maybe.
I have
PCD. Yeah.
PCD, and I guess with that said, would you grab the door? I've learned. Sometimes I just can't say no. Listings that come on or come together, and I'm learning that like today, this is how this began. There was a client that I really, really need to say no to. So, and again, my friend that's going to join us here shortly showed up, and I have picked a really, really tough spot to do this in. But we'll move along, and we'll have our next guy join us here in a moment.
Is he there now?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. You want to bring him into this conversation on no, and then we'll roll into another conversation, a separate one with him.
Good. Yeah.
Let's bring him in on both. We'll bring him in on both episodes.
That'll be great. So again, as I try to find different places to do this vlog, I don't think I can hide very well. So I can't do it in my office. Here I'm on the kitchen table. My son's out of town, and we're being attacked over here. So Nick will join us in a minute.
Well, you know what I'd say to that? Sorry, just while we're waiting for Nick there too. But I would say, I think two things come to mind. One, I think we're stuck in an old pattern of perfectionism where the world is waiting to be perfect before they show up and to the world, before they show up in their life. And so, case in point, you doing this show in your kitchen right now, and in the past you've done it out. It's like what's so great is by you showing up wherever you show up, that's what makes it okay for other people to show up. We don't have all the answers.
Right.
And the whole pretense of this show is not that we have all the answers. It's that we're exploring the questions.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's what gives other people permission and freedom to explore their own questions.
That's right. Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, I think we'll have the Tooth here join us now. I mean, he's really shy, you'll find out.
I sort of feel like that's not true.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll need to learn or not. Nick, come on, join us.
We can share a mic. You guys can share a mic.
He's going to pop in right now. Nick, what we're talking about at the moment is we talked about maybe we would go ahead and have you join in with us.
Nick,
and then,
do it.
Even go into the next topic. So what we're talking about right now is no being a complete sentence. And I will tell you something. I've known this guy a long time, and I don't think he has a problem saying no. Yeah.
Hey, guys. What's going on, man?
What's up, Nick?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Go
Nick,
ahead, man.
well, Bobby, give me the introduction. This is Nick. Nick has a nickname.
Nick the Tooth. And Nick the Tooth. Nick, want to give a big smile. Tell a little bit. Yeah. See, bold dude. So Nick actually, I think he did that surfing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and just, kind of guy that can not worry about putting something back in there or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get honest. The reality is when it happened, I was fucking horrified. So, can I curse on this podcast?
I mean, apparently, yeah.
So I was horrified. I had no idea. It was actually a shock to me. I was surfing trestles, and it was a very, very big day. And I had been surfing for 3 hours. I would say it was like 12 to 14 foot faces. It was a swell called Code Red.
Wow.
That hit Tahiti and just was probably the biggest swell that ever hit Tahiti. And so I got it in my brain that, hey, I need to surf this thing. And so it was so in the break that I was surfing is called Cottons, and it's a left.
Oh, yeah.
And I had surfed it on some very, very big days. And so I thought, well, the break is such that in California is so far away from the origination of the swell that by the time it gets to California, it's very groomed. It's not like on the Gulf Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And so and what that does for the waves is it makes it just perfect wall. But this day it happened to be kind of out of control, more like what you see in Hawaii. And so Jeremy, a buddy of mine, was like, I am not going out there. And so I'm like, well, I'm going out there. And I had surfed for like 3 hours and caught a bunch of really big waves. And I was tired, and I was like, this is my last wave. And I took it all the way through the inside, like 100 yards. And I'm pumping down the line, and this section just starts to barrel. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting barrel. This will be the biggest barrel of my life. And as I pull into the barrel, the thing just closed out on me. And remember, this is like 2 stories high.
Yeah.
Pushed me all the way to the bottom, hit the bottom, couldn't breathe. I'm like, oh shit, that panic, right? And so I had that panic, my heart's going. And so as a surfer, you either kick off the bottom or you can kick off your leash. And I kicked off my leash. The tension, my board was what they call tombstone. So it's holding the pressure of the wave, was just holding it like this. So I kick off my leash to get up because of that tension on the leash. And as I'm swimming up to get a breath, because I think I'm dying, I can feel the board coming back at me, chattering back. And as I took a breath, the pintail, the very end of the board, just cracked me right when I took a breath, right on that one tooth. And boom, it hit me so hard that I grabbed my board and I was like, oh, I got to go catch another wave. Because I thought that I had just gotten out. So I had a concussion.
Oh, wow.
And
no way.
I turned around and I saw like this guy in a wave. I'll never forget this image. This guy on like a massive wave. The sun's kind of setting behind him. And I'm like, that looks so good. I need to get one. I didn't realize I had been surfing for 3 hours. And as I'm paddling back, I look down and there is blood everywhere in the water. So I'm like, oh, fuck. I guess I got hurt. So I made it to the beach, and I'm in pain, and half of my tooth is missing. And I immediately go to a dentist. And that began like a 6-month saga of first getting a cap. Then they capped the tooth, and then the tooth got infected. Then they pulled the tooth, and they put an implant in there because I definitely didn't want to walk around like a redneck being from the Gulf Coast. I know what rednecks look like. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to walk around like that. But the implant got infected, and I went to like one of the best endodontists in Beverly Hills that there was. And he just kept giving me antibiotics and saying, just keep it. It'll be fine. We'll just beat the infection and the implant will stay. Well, for 6 months, I would say like 40% of my face was numb. And I couldn't taste anything. I couldn't smell anything. And finally, I went in there and I was like, listen, you son of a bitch, pull this out of my face right now. And I hadn't been able to put a flipper in there because, like a fake tooth in there, because it was swollen all the time and it was so infected. And so, so I had been going around without a tooth. And in the interim, during that time, I'm friends with Dana White from the UFC. And we started doing like really funny blogs. And all of a sudden, everybody just started calling me the tooth. And so then I was like, take it out. I don't give a shit. I'm never. He's like, listen, we'll take it out and we'll put a new one in next week. I'm like, yeah, okay. We'll see how that works. I never talked to him again.
This is your memento from that experience.
Exactly.
Nice. Wow.
So there's the tooth.
The tooth.
Yeah.
Nick
So
the
we
tooth.
went from, so apparently what, also we were talking about no. Jeremy was the smart one. Jeremy did not go paddle out. He said no, right? So Jeremy gets it, right?
Nice segue. Yeah. Nice segue.
But I met Nick years and years ago. I even told someone this story earlier today. So everywhere I'd go, people would say, "Man, you got to meet this guy Nick," and then Nick would hear the same thing, "Man, you got to meet this guy Bobby." And we hadn't met, but we were told to meet, right?
Yeah.
And we were hanging out in Watercolor one day, and I heard this dude talking, and I could recognize the surf lingo, right? And I was like, I walked over and I was like, "Are you Nick Gullo?" And he goes, "Are you Bobby Johnson?" And like, that was 15 years ago.
The story is actually
Yeah.
reversed because I'm the one that said, "Are you Bobby Johnson?"
That's right. Yeah.
He likes to take credit for it, but I'm the one
So-
with the intuition.
Yeah,
that said,
so-
that's Bobby Johnson.
So from there forward, we just started surfing. Like Nick's an attorney. I was doing real estate, and we kind of gave up everything else in life, man. And we started surfing all over the country, heck, all over Costa Rica. We gave up like our lives, our businesses. And meanwhile, I'm, 2 shoulder surgeries, neck surgery in, and
I moved to Huntington Beach. My wife and daughter and I moved to Huntington Beach. I just wanted to get more waves. And then Bobby moved out there like 2 years later, like a year, 2 years later at the most.
Yeah.
And
surfed every day out there again.
So awesome.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Man. We kind of gave up on life a little bit. So, and then we moved
Sometimes
back.
that just shows that sometimes you got to say yes.
Yeah. There you go. Yes.
I
is a
mean,
complete sentence.
no
too.
doubt about it. No doubt. So, Nick does his own, he has a blog, right? And you do.
Not a blog. I do a podcast.
A podcast, right.
What's
yeah,
your podcast called, Nick? What's it
It's called Motus V with Nick the Tooth. And
Motus
it's focused on, one of the things when I went out to California, I'm always looking for something to do as far as exercise. And so when I went out there, I really got into skateboarding, and I was skating a lot, like skating pools. I was like, this would be really cool, something to do. And in the interim, while I was skating, I would skate over at a surf brand right by my house called Ruka. Big surf brand. They had a skate ramp over there, and I would go over there and skate. And I ended up surfing and meeting the guys from Ruka. And the owner of Ruka, his name's Pat Tenori, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And he knew that I was associated with the UFC. And I was like, man, I really want to kind of learn more about MMA because I hated MMA. To me, it was just a meathead sport.
Let me real quick. We're coming back on an airplane, and we're in Costa Rica, 2005. I'll never forget it. And I say we're all getting into UFC, like we're all kind of following it a little bit. And I say to Nick, Nick, you ever watch any of this UFC stuff? And he goes, nah, but I'm good friends with Dana White. And I'm like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? I literally said, yeah, right. And he goes, oh yeah, no. He basically speed dials him on the telephone. He's got Dana White on the phone. And it's so funny. We're the ones like following it, and he's actually connected with
I'm not a sports fan. I don't follow any sports. I don't like football. Even when I played football in high school, I never watched it. I find watching sports to bore me to no end.
Huh.
So I wasn't even really that much into MMA, but I kind of wanted to learn about it. And martial arts were always intriguing, of course. And I'd done like karate or kung fu or something as a kid. And, but I valued my brain cells. And so I was like, there's no way I'm doing striking or Muay Thai. I'm not letting anybody kick me or hit me or anything like that. And so my buddy from Ruka was like, well, I'm opening a gym in Newport in like the next few months. You should start jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, well, yeah, it sounds like it could be cool. I remember we went down there with Ed Barry when we went, and he was kind of showing me some jiu-jitsu. And I was like, this sucks. I'm never doing this either. But I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to try it. And so the gym opened, and I started doing jiu-jitsu. And as a background, I had wrestled from 8 to 18. And so I had a grappling background, a really serious grappling background. So as soon as I started it, I immediately fell in love with it. It was like being a kid again, a lot of people will ask me, like, what's this intersection between jiu-jitsu and surfing? Why do so many people who surf, like Joel Tudor, some of the Kelly Slater, some of the greatest surfers in the world, Michelle Perez, Jeremy. So why do these guys, why are they so into jiu-jitsu if they surf? And I think it took me like probably 5-6 years to realize that both of them are just super fun. You know, it's just fun. It's like being a kid again. And I feel like that's such an important aspect of life, is to do something that you lose yourself in that is just pure fun.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
So I started jiu-jitsu, and it ended up that the gym that opened, the brothers that opened it, they were in the prime of their competitive careers in jiu-jitsu, and they were basically the Kelly Slater and LeBron James, Michael Jordans of the sport.
Wow.
And so I entered into a gym which became the most premier gym and first class gym that really set the standard from every other gym in the world. And so became very close with the brothers. I started competing in jiu-jitsu, and it just kind of took off. Once I started doing jiu-jitsu, I started doing jiu-jitsu for 2-3 hours, 5 days a week, and maybe 6 days a week. I've done it like that ever since.
Wow.
How are your ears? How are your ears?
I have cauliflower ears on both, but especially this one.
Do you still practice law on top of the surfing, skating?
No, I do a lot of consulting, but I've always, it was, for me, my law degree, and when I was in law school, I also got my MBA. I went to Tulane University, and I always looked at those as an opportunity to prove something to myself, to be frank, that I could do it, and just also as an opportunity. I always thought, well, this will enable me to kind of just coast through life and not have to work too much. And that's how I've used it. I've just used it as consulting when I need to consult, and try and keep as much free time as I can. Yeah. I've really tried to avoid trying to be, because I did that, you know, when I was here with Bobby. It's very easy to get sucked into the machine. You know, the more money you make, the more you spend, the more you spend, the more you make. Before you know it, you're fucking miserable and you have a heart attack.
It's perfect. So that's my segue. I want to segue back, because that's exactly it. I'm so glad we went there, because I think in order for people to say, like, so what's the secret? You've had to say no to a lot of things in order to keep your time free, right? And do the things you want to do and to create the life you want to create. You have to say no to a lot of things, I would imagine. Opportunity. I would say, you know, I was just talking to a very close friend of mine, who lives down here, Jason Romero, and he and I were having a conversation yesterday, and I said, you know, I've reached such a point with saying no. It's ironic that we're talking about this now, but I've reached such a point of saying no that if I don't have a meaningful emotional relationship with somebody, then I don't answer the phone. I don't give a shit. I don't care if they're my family or they're not.
So true, man.
I mean, if I don't have that emotional connection, if there's any kind of bullshit, I just don't have time for it, you know, because I'd rather be surfing. Or I'd rather be, you know, doing jujitsu.
I will say that, working
out
of all the people I know, Nick has definitely taken a path less traveled. As a matter of fact, to a point where it's frustrated me in a sense that, like, I was like, well, no, you're doing this. And then all of a sudden he's not. He switches over to this, and then he's doing that, and I get used to him doing that, and then he's doing this. So he is actually able to wake up one day and say no to something that he created. Like, he did it. You know how we all get stuck in this, like, this rut of life, and like, and then and Nick, even it rings a bell sometimes when I'll think about it. Like he came up with it. It was his idea. He's doing it. And then he said something to me one day. Then you wake up one day and you don't feel it the next day. It's okay to say no to that, even though it's all your idea.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that bizarre? Like, that,
no, it's not bizarre,
that
because
freaks me out that he does that a little bit, and we're also caught in this, like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I developed, this is my thing, that we'll go 30 or 40 or 50 years doing that, hating it the whole way we're doing it. And this guy is over here changing it by the week.
Well, it's
pretty impressive.
I view life as a video game, and it's just your video game, and you better fucking enjoy it, because if you don't, there's no one else to complain to.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah.
And
so both of you have this type of life experience of I think, Bobby, I think you're that way too. I think you'll find the things that you want to chase or pursue. But there are a lot of people that don't. So where do you feel like people get stuck in saying no? Like, why can't people say no to things? What's the condition?
Fear. It's fear. It's always fear.
Fear.
It's always fear. Come on.
Yeah.
It's always fear, man. People are always afraid. They're afraid what other people are going to think. They're afraid what their parents are going to think. They're afraid that they're going to fail. And one of the things
they're afraid they can't support their family.
Yeah, and it's
well,
minimize your freaking costs.
Yeah. So this is crazy. One time, this is so Nick left. We left at the same. Well, he left and then he went out there and we surfed, and he didn't really have a job, right? He didn't have a job. He went years and years without a job. I mean, I don't know how much of this you want me to expose, but this is my perception of it, right? So I said to him one day, I was like, dude, how do you go this long without having a job, right? And he goes, well, have you ever had a problem getting a job? And I said, no. And he goes, well, yeah, neither have I. He goes, getting at work is easy. Try to live the life without work, and that's the real art. And I was like, I'll be damned. I have been looking at it all wrong. And so he's kind of perfected, not that you don't work, but it's amazing how he's been able to kind of go through life not in a very unorthodox way. Almost appears like he doesn't work.
Well, and then the reality is people need to wake the fuck up. Because if you look at what's happening in the world, I mean, there are reports after reports that are saying that, within 10 years, 40% of the jobs are going to be automated. And if you think that's not going to affect you, then how are your clients going to pay you? So, people need to wake up and realize that business is not going to take care of them. Industry is not going to take care of them. You've got to start developing these entrepreneurial muscles now. Because you get yourself stuck in this situation right now. Come 10 years, you're in trouble. I really recommend to people the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Very simplistic book. Very simplistic book. And it is I would say it's one of the most prophetic books of our times.
It really is.
Yeah.
Have you ever read that, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, good one.
I was just listening to there was some keynote Gary Vaynerchuk had done, and he was talking about how automated truckers will be replaced by self-driving trucks. And
there's a great documentary on HBO right now called The Future of Work, and it opens the opening segment is on truckers, and the truckers, they get the truckers in there. The truckers are like, it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. They put a few of those truckers in those trucks, on automated trucks, and afterwards, they look like they've seen a ghost. They are white, shaking. They are shell shocked, and they're like, "We're done.
Yeah,
this is here." That is 3 million jobs across the United States.
Wow,
in a country of 300 million. That's just one industry. Do the math.
To Gary's point, it's going to be before that becomes full on. There's a lag here between when it's all automated trucks. And so his point was look, you got 10, 20 years to go develop a new skill. Like you're saying, flex that entrepreneurial muscle. You've got time, but if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't wake up, then what happens is you're going to get replaced before you ever develop the muscle to take care of yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, big time.
Well, it's like our industry, in the real estate world, we're already seeing this big shift there with the Zillows, Realtor.com, that it won't be long.
How about Airbnb as opposed to, how it's revolutionized just vacation rentals?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, well, totally. I think all you can really do is embrace those things.
You have to embrace them.
And because you're not going to change them. You're not going to fight them. No. But we're seeing people in our industry that are saying, it won't happen. But that it's already happening.
Well, how about I just saw this thing that was talking about, I think the latest IPOs in Wall Street completely just bypassed Wall Street. They just went right to investors, and they're not paying those origination fees. It's happening with everything. Wow. I mean, the only thing you can do is embrace it because it's coming. The reason the change is going to come is because the greatest amount of money right now is being made by companies who are disrupting industries and eliminating jobs. Amazon, one of the most valuable companies in the world, is eliminating mom and pops around the country.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're making billions doing it. So other companies, more billions are following into that, saying, how can we eliminate jobs? Because obviously the template has been shown that if you can eliminate jobs, then you can cash in.
Wow.
So
yeah. I mean,
leave me with this, guys.
Follow the money.
let's wrap this episode. We'll make it a 2-part because I want to go into the thing you and Nick were talking about before in our next episode. But let's wrap with, give me a final thought on no as a complete sentence. Each of you, give me a final thought on what that is. Like, what does that mean? Why does that matter?
You just used it. You just said it. No is a complete sentence. No, that's my final thought. No, my final thought on no is something that I have definitely struggled with. Nick probably knows that about me more than anybody, is that I always say yes. But I think what happens is, we only have a limited time in life. And one thing that we do have is time, right? That we're very limited with that. And if you don't realize that and you don't learn to say no, your life will be consumed by trying to please other people. So I've been, every time I get around Nick, that no thing starts popping up, but I gotta remember to, kind of absorb a little bit of his ability to do it. So I think it's kind of ironic that we brought Nick into this section. So
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. What about you, Nick?
The only way you can take control of your life is by saying no.
Oh, man.
That's it.
That's good, man. Yeah, I think too, I'll wrap with this. I think it's important that you decide what it is you want, because until you're clear about what you want, it's hard to decipher what you're saying yes and no to. So great episode. Nick, if people want to learn more about your podcast, where can people go? How can they
go to iTunes or Libsyn or any other Stitcher, and you can look up Motus V, that is Motus V, with Nick the Tooth.
V as in Victor? V?
Yep.
Motus V. Okay, good. Got it. Bobby, if people want to reach out to you, they want to learn more about real estate stuff in 30A, or just want to connect with you, where do people go?
localrealestate.com, or you got my numbers and connection below.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.